Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making some delicious no-bake Oreo balls with 3 ingredients. So let's get started. First off, grab 38 Oreos. They could be any kind you like, really. Double stuffed, chocolate, etc. We're gonna chop these up first. If you wanted to, you could put these in your food processor and whiz it up. I don't feel like washing that today, so I'm gonna give them a chop and then roll them out. Some people will tell you to crush these in a big plastic bag, but the plastic bag always gets little holes in it, and I worry that you'd have tiny little pieces of plastic that you're eating, which is not okay or delicious. So just get a big cutting board out, chop them up, and then roll them out. Now grab a rolling pin and just crush them up. It's really super fun. I actually like the sound of it too, listen. A few rolls later, and I have a nice crumbly mixture with a few larger pieces in. If you use a food processor, they'll be like powder, which is great. It'll be like mushy and delicious inside, but I like a little hint of crunchiness left over. It's like creamy versus crunchy peanut butter. Grab a big bowl, and we're gonna transfer these over. Grab some softened cream cheese. It should be very pliable. You can even warm it in the microwave until it's slightly melty if you want. Pop that in. And you can use a hand mixer if you want. You could use your stand mixer. I'm just gonna do this by hand. Just kind of cream it up a little bit to give it a head start. The cream cheese is adding a lovely tang because those are a bit sweet. And of course, it'll hold all those crumbs together and act like a delicious glue. All right. Now, I'm gonna carefully transfer these over without spilling anything and get to work. My goal in doing this all by hand is just to show you that you could do this with little kids if you wanted to, and it's really fun. Just make sure they wash their hands. Now for the fun part, we're gonna mix this and mush this all together until we have like a giant, goopy, delicious mess. This recipe is a holiday favorite at the house. They look like fancy little truffles, and you can make them well in advance and just let them sit in the refrigerator for a long time. But they're so easy to make, it's ridiculous. And by the way, if for some reason you're watching this video but don't like Oreo cookies, I don't know what the crossover is, you can make this with another kind of cookie. You could make like chocolate chip versions of this, shortbread versions. It should just be a cookie that's kind of on the sweeter side, so not like a shortbread that's slightly sweet because the cream cheese has no sugar. If you're doing that, then you have to start adding a little bit of powdered sugar. It kind of gets away from the basics. The best way to do this is just by hand. I was trying to be extra neat, but let's be real. Just mush it together and all of a sudden it'll be a nice cohesive mess. Just get those crumbs from the bottom and smash them in. And I can feel right now the texture is great. It has little pieces that are totally crisp inside. Okay, everything's sticking together. There's no errant crumbs. We're ready for the next step. And all that is grabbing about a tablespoon or so. It's kind of up to you. You can make the balls a little bit bigger. Give it a roll. And I'm not gonna bother to wash my hands because they're gonna get Oreo pieces on them anyways. Get them mostly spherical. You can fix them up a little bit later and plop them down. You're gonna repeat that until you have no more Oreo ball dough left. As your balls are rolled, plop them onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. And the parchment is just there to keep your baking sheet nice and clean and make sure nothing gets stuck, since these are no-bake Oreo balls. When you roll these out, by the way, like if they're a little bit lopsided, don't go crazy and like get in your head about having them be perfect spheres because 1, they'll be delicious either way. 2, after they're chilled, you can give them one final like semi-roll to fix any issues. But really, they'll be delicious anyway. I love seeing the little bits of cream cheese. If you want all the balls to be exactly the same size, it's a best bet just to use a scale. You can say everyone should be 20 grams or 25 or 30, etc. These are probably around 25 grams each, if I had to guess. One of the reasons I like this recipe, and a lot of other people do too, the inside is super soft and like, it's like very delicious. It yields to your tongue. But the outside is a crisp candy shell. It's just like a good crunch with a soft moment after it. It's really nice. And the secret is that we're not gonna use chocolate for the outside. You can if you want to. In fact, if you're a baking superstar or a chocolatier at home, you can temper your chocolate, which I've talked about in other videos, like melt it, have it tempered, dip it, and then they'll have that nice crunchy chocolate shell. But it's very, it's a lot. This is an easy recipe, you don't have to do that. We're gonna use a type of a candy melt, which will set no matter what. So you can just microwave it really easily. It'll melt, dip it, let it set for a few minutes, and it's done. Plop, plop. My Oreo balls are all rolled out, but if you tried to dip them now, it would be a melty mess and you'd be so sad and frustrated. So give these a cover, pop them into the fridge for at least an hour or up to like 2 days. You can make this days in advance, and then we'll be ready to go. I actually have a swap out though, so I'm gonna do this right now. So these are chocolate chips. You can melt them in the microwave if you want. I'd use like a drop or two of like coconut oil or lard because that'll set to room temperature. But if you do that, your Oreo balls have to live in the refrigerator unless you temper the chocolate, which, as I said earlier, is a whole process. I don't think you're gonna love it for a no-bake, easy 3-ingredient recipe. These guys are melting wafers, and this brand is Ghirardelli. I'm just mentioning that because I've tried a lot of different brands of melting wafers, and these melt the nicest. So you can get them at your supermarket, vanilla flavored melting wafers. And if you wanna know what they taste like mother's cookies. See all those cookies dipped in the white stuff with little baby sprinkles? That's what they taste like. It took me years to realize what that nostalgic flavor was. It was the cookies. Melt this in the microwave, like maybe 60% power, 30-second bursts. Give it a stir in between, and in no time, it'll be a melty, beautiful dipping solution. In you go. Once they're chilled, melt your candy melts, and I'll tell you, it's better to work in batches. So don't pull all those balls out at once because they'll get too soft. They should be fairly firm. And here, just give them one final roll so they're nice and round. Dip that in. And now just tap off some of the excess because that's too much. Now grab a fork and pull the skewer out and nudge that back onto the baking sheet, just like that. And you're gonna continue this process for the rest of those Oreo balls. See all of that extra candy melt? If you don't let it kind of drizzle off, you'll have a giant pool on the bottom, which is not fun. So the absolute easiest way to decorate them is just a crumble of Oreos. But if you want to be a little extra fancy, just grab some chocolate chips and give them a melt, and we can drizzle that over. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and it makes them look so fancy. I have a couple tablespoons of chocolate melted and in a piping bag. Just snip the tip off. No need for a piping bag. In fact, you could just spin it over, but it's much easier this way. And now drizzle it over the side. Okay. So pretty and fancy. You can let me know in the comments which way you like better. I don't know, I think the crumbles look really elegant to me for some reason. I'm doing a little bit of a zigzag pattern, so a couple in one direction, a couple in another, and don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. These Oreo balls will keep for up to 2 weeks in the refrigerator if stored in an airtight container, so you can make them well in advance. Once they're decorated, your Oreo balls are ready to enjoy or share. Such an easy treat. That is so good. Oh my gosh. The crunch of the candy shell, the soft Oreo cream cheese filling, it's just delightful. I hope you get a chance to make this easy recipe, and if you like this video, check out my holiday treat playlist.